Okay, and we're recording. Hey everyone, Brian at the Chronicler's Tale. So today, I'm talking about the commoditization of humanity is coming to an end. I've talked in prior chats about how a lot of things in today have been commoditized down to a basic thing. Excuse me, where everything is just down to a means of making money. It's been simplified, cheapened, and turned into garbage. And I think, and more, I'm seeing instances where this is coming to a close. Some examples, if you haven't seen those videos, commoditizing things. Think about music. If you grew up and are old enough to remember the music of the 90s and the very early aughts, and where music has gone since then, where it's basically been turned into a product. We make music so we can sell tickets and sell albums and make revenue. And the artists also get something on the side. And it's all about monetizing music, something that people enjoy and value. Movies, same thing. I was just listening to Critical Drinker talking about the experiment with the social experiment with hammering down guys and in Western movies and hammering the male psyche, and guys are bad, and root of problems, and how do we win male audiences back in the whole experiment. And I thought a little bit deeper about a lot of franchises, especially Star Wars, since I grew up with Star Wars, and how that's been commoditized, where we're going to make a spin-off show and a spin-off show and a spin-off show, and we're just going to make tons of content for the purpose of getting eyeballs in front of it and earning money. And that's it. Music, houses. We rebuild a house as fast as we can so we can build more houses. Cars. Crap, in the US, our food, whatever's cheapest, quickest, fastest, so we can sell more food. Everything's been commoditized. I even think about like my work experience. My background is in purchasing work, buying work, and I've worked in smaller privately owned companies, and I've worked in Fortune 500 corporations, and I've had the unique balance and opportunity to where I'm at now to go from the day-to-day operations being more like a mom and pop thing, and then the job being turned into one of these corporate jobs where basically it's a wash, rinse, repeat, where, in my case, the only reason I keep going is to earn a paycheck and not get yelled at. But that's another story. But I've seen from that transition how things have just been commoditized, where pretty much you could pluck anyone out of any position and just interchange. It's like changing gears, the position of gears. The only difference, you've got between our company, a sister company that's co-managed, the buyers do the exact same things. So you can easily pluck one, put it in another spot, and they can do the same thing and just need to learn the nuances of a given vendor. Well, everything's been commoditized, where it's more about making the things that humanity needs for the purpose of earning money, which is necessity. And there was a video. There's definitely, I think, attitudes are changing, and there's two other parallels to these things I'm observing. One is money, and another one is the awareness of the value of beauty as a human quality, which also parallels with the workplace experience. So, Academy of Ideas had a video. Let's puff that up. And let's shrink this down so we can see this. Why the lack of beauty is destroying society. Came out a few days ago. okay, mid-August. And the main point that comes out of this video is that if you go back to architecture, to art, to music, we made things that were beautiful, not just to show off, but because the value of the experience that witnessing beauty elicits is the value. That is the value. Seeing gorgeous architecture and having that emotional experience of awe or of revulsion or of curiosity, that is the value. That is why things are made like they are. That is why Shakespeare writes plays like he did. Maybe he didn't, I don't know. But a lot of literature and poetry and music is so much emotion goes into it, and it's made deliberately to express and elicit emotion because that is the value. I think that's been slightly diluted over the last 100 years with technology, or a lot of technological things elicit these values, these reactions, these emotions. A lot of addictions to things that bring to little things that bring pleasure, like food or anything chemically, any kind of chemical stimulant, from alcohol to any other recreational drug or even prescription drug that will elicit a pleasurable feeling. That kind of takes the place of things. The things we do, like video games or watching TV, watching movies, watching cat videos, getting lost doing that for an hour. These things have replaced and filled in spots that before the beauty of going to an opera or a stage production or the analog things that existed before electricity. These social interaction, face-to-face social interaction, those things were slowly pushed aside and replaced with other things. But the value of those things still exists. It still has a place. And I think on a very, very long timeline, and this is where I'm going to start tying in the money, we are like a person who's left home for a long time and having seen and experienced places other than home, we begin to see the value of the things from our home and recognize the value. Now it's almost kind of like you have to go without to understand the value of what you had. And there's nothing wrong with that. That's part of the experience of being human. That's part of this experience of humanity, the human civilization evolving. I think you see that partially in cultural identities, which gets expressed through nationalism, for good or bad. But having a strong sense of cultural identity is reasserting itself. And there's nothing wrong with that. There's nothing wrong with saying you're proud of an identity of something. That's part of being human. You can't argue that. I mean, sports teams are is another expression, another outlet of expression of that energy of cultural identity. Everything, every single group that we affiliate with, every kind of social group we affiliate with is an expression of that energy. Nationalism is just through a different lens, a different method, a different way. It's a different kind of expression. And culturally, one thing I've learned through my journey with Bitcoin, and I guess you could say with cryptocurrencies as well, but with Bitcoin, was that you learn, when you're learning about Bitcoin, it makes you ask, well, then what is money? And when you understand that money is a tool of expressing value, how much something is worth to us as human beings. And it's sort of an abstract way of doing it, where we're going to do it regardless. And that is sort of like a common ground, a ring in the center that we all coalesce around. And through consent are able to come to a consensus. Now, granted, you can manipulate the variables in that factor into that consensus, but the basic core process is that it creates a consensus to determine what something is worth within the scope of human existence. And that's where we get value. That's where we get how much things cost. Now, when you have a currency, that can be where the supply of money is continually created more and more. It's basically supply and demand. If you have access to more money and it doesn't cost you a lot to access that, to get a hold of that money, either in time, by working, by borrowing, by stealing, you have more money to spend. And if you have more money available to you, you are more willing to pay more for something because you have more abundance of that resource, the resource being money. And that's where inflation comes in. That's where prices go up. If everyone has $200 and can only afford $200 for a house, hypothetically speaking, of course, but you have $205, you can outbid that. And now the price of a house, the going price is, hey, their house sold for $205. I have the exact same house. I demand $205. And all of a sudden, prices go up. And that's how our monetary system works. More and more money is borrowed, created out of thin air to keep it simple. And then prices keep going up and up and up. The price of a house going up 25% a year doesn't mean all of a sudden there's 25% less houses, or there's 25% more people, or suddenly, for some strange reason, homes became 25% more valuable in that central ring where we said, well, if things have value, we really want a house now. Because the demand of how many people want that house, it's just that there's more money available to people. Now let's go about the full screen to chase it with. And that's where we are today. We're reaching the limit. With Bitcoin, you have the benefit of a fixed supply asset. Every 10 minutes. So for people not familiar with blockchain technology and Bitcoin, the basic fundamental operation of the software that it runs on, is that people are sending it to one another using their digital wallets. And every 10 minutes, all of the transactions, so there's thousands of computers around the world that all have a full copy of the full ledger of every single Bitcoin transaction that's ever happened. So if I'm going to send 0.05 Bitcoin to someone, that gets communicated over this network, and all these nodes that have copies of the ledger validate that my wallet address has 0.05 Bitcoin to send to that wallet address, and that wallet address that I'm sending it to is a valid address. And it says, okay. And then every 10 minutes, all these transactions get bundled together onto like a page of a ledger, just like accounting, get bundled together. A whole bunch of computers called mining are trying to solve an algorithmic equation. And the first computer that does it right is credited. It's like, okay, we're the algorithm's been validated. All these transactions, they've been validated. They've now been pieced together, and it's a new block, a new page of this ledger. We're going to move on to the next one. And the reward for the proof of the work, the expenditure of resources, electricity, equipment, to validate that is that computer that solved it, they have to have a wallet, have their own digital Bitcoin wallet. It is rewarded with newly created Bitcoin. So when Bitcoin was started, there was literally 0 Bitcoin in the world. And when the first block was made, that wallet made 50 Bitcoin, and then another 50 Bitcoin. And every 4 years, the reward is cut in half. Right now, it's when you solve a block, when you create a block, you're rewarded 3.25 Bitcoin. So that's 100, 200, 300, almost $400,000 in today's price of Bitcoin. And so there's a set inflation rate, in which case it started out rapid and now it's just slowing down. So I think right now, 19.5 million of the total 21 million that will ever exist are currently in circulation. So, having said that mouthful, it's a fixed supply asset, meaning it's just like Mickey Mantle rookie cards. There's only so many of those. But if more and more people are interested in buying this fixed supply of Mickey Mantle rookie cards, it's going to start to get bid upwards, because someone's going to say, I want this more than you. So instead of paying $5,000, I'm going to pay $5,001. Then someone's going to say, well, I want that more than you. I'm going to pay $5,002. And it just goes on and on. And what we have with the phenomenon of Bitcoin is that more and more people are seeing the value of it, both as an asset, as a commodity, and for its characteristics as money. All right, I'm done with my stump speech. But in the course of learning all this stuff, you learn what is money, and you realize Robert Breedlove, he's been making videos for, I don't know, 5, 6, 7 years, maybe, for a while, maybe even longer than that, 8 years. And he talks about him and Jeff Booth of how the debasement of our currency changes our perspective. It changes our timeline. Where if you go to the stories of, like, say, Weimar Germany, or when Turkey had horrible inflation, or Argentina over the last 30 years when they've had horrible inflation, when you get money today, the purchasing power of that money decreases tomorrow, next week, whatever it is. And so you start thinking with the mentality of, I can't just rely on holding on to that money, because it's losing the purchasing power, the value that I put into earning that money, whether it's through investments, the time to invest and make those decisions, your labor, that value is decreasing. So then it turns into whatever you try and think of more and more ways to make money, because you have to earn money to keep up with the loss in value, which is why prices keep a huge reason why there's upward pressure on prices going up. It's not just, greedy corporations, bro. It's that the money is corrupt. Our monetary system is effed up. Well, this mentality, I want to say it's, how do they term it? Having a long timeline preference, a long preference, something like that, where you have a mindset with Bitcoin, it depreciates. It's deflationary, where when you buy it today, like let's say 5 years ago, you bought it at $25,000. Let's say you bought one Bitcoin at $25,000. Deflationary value means the purchasing power of that unit of money, in this case represented in one Bitcoin, increases in value instead of decreases, inflationary. And this one thing I've observed, like Robert Breedlove's big on this, is talking about how this mentality, when you look at how the money, the very thing that is in the middle of so much of what humanity does, how the mentality with that and how we interact that way permeates and seeps through everything else. We're just trying to make as many homes as we can as fast as we can so we can earn what money we can. Because of the debasement of currency, we have to fight to keep up to earn more money because what we save isn't keeping up. It's not increasing our standard of living. And it's slow over the last, where are we on? 50 years? 1971, 50 years and change, when the dollar was officially unhinged from the gold standard. There's a good website. Is it WTF? Happened in 1971. Yeah. And it talks all about that. It's a real good, simple to learn educational site where it'll tell you this is what happened to our money and what the effects have been. And this change in mindset is why there's so much stuff where it influences and factors into commoditizing everything, where everything is just a means of earning money. There's no value in having a workplace that you can enjoy because you have to work to squeeze out every last goddamn penny. And this is me being kind of a little bit pissed off about our corporate about our values today. And to be fair, I'm not saying corporations are evil and evil corporations. Corporations exist. Companies exist to create things for the purpose of earning money by selling a product, a service. That's what they do. It's a way of organizing people together into one direction of achieving that specific goal. The goal of Microsoft is to make software. The goal of Apple is to make phones and other services. The goal of the New York Times is to take information and present news to people and provide information for people. And you have the structural entity of the corporation to do it. So it's not, and remember, kids, it's not evil corporations. It's people. It's people. It's people doing things. And a lot of people aren't nefarious. They're just responding to the incentives in place. So I'm just a CEO and, well, I have to drive and earn money because that's the pressure I get from the board of directors and the shareholders and all the people who have an interest in the success of this organization. You change the monetary system, you help change the incentives, and we'll go back to having workplaces that are more enjoyable to work in, where the value of the workplace experience has the more prominent role that it deserves, that it needs in our experience, because people will stay somewhere and they add value through retention and seniority, cohesion, culture. It's not just commoditization of a job role, which unfortunately the place where I'm at is 100% that. Anyway, and the same thing goes for everything else. You're not making homes. You don't have to make a home as fast as you can with the cheapest materials. You can now focus on things like, if there's a value in beauty and architecture, you can focus on that. Because if we're not focused so damned hard on trying to earn money just to maintain some sort of standard of wealth, of living, of comfort, we can take pleasure in the beauty of things. We can enjoy the experience of life. And I think in more and more ways, we are recognizing this, and we are recognizing the value of beauty. We are recognizing the value of beauty that elicits emotional experiences, that is a part of our life. It's not just running in a rat cage. It's running in a rat cage and enjoying the movie and the pizza and the leisure. It's the beauty of life itself. And I think we've reached this point. We've reached this point where it's slowly turning, and thank God for the better. Thank God that it is. So something to keep about, food for thought. You can follow Chronicler's Tale. Twitter, well, it's more personal commentary than it actually is history stuff. 50-50. These video platforms you're watching this on, and chroniclerstale.com. So with that, be well, everyone. Talk to you soon.